wanted this video to be just a short one, a fast one. And then I went to look at my original footage, my raw footage, if you say so. And it was 1 hour long. I think the rant I will be having in this one will be a long one. It's the time of the month, or like the time of the year where I will be doing a reading wrap-up, because turns out it has been quite a few months since I've done one. I don't actually remember. When did I do one? Let me check on Goodreads. What was the last book? The last wrap-up I ever did were from the books I read until June, so this will be welcome to my reading wrap-up, or basically all the books I read between July and October 2023. And yeah, let's dive in because I have 21 books to talk about, and I don't want this video to be way too long. And I'm not going to go in chronological order. I think I'm going to present the books on subject or genre order. Here are some of the books. These are the physical copies. Then we also have the Kindle. In terms of the order, I was debating if I was going to start through the genre that I have the most books to talk about, or the one I have the least. I think I'm going to start through the genre I have the least of. I only read one non-fiction in the past month, so let's start by that one book, which is a memoir. It is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. This is quite a popular book, and for a reason. Jennette, she was a child star. She's better known for portraying the character Sam in the Nickelodeon series iCarly and Sam and Cat. And I never actually watched Sam and Cat, but I watched iCarly, so the moment this book came out, I was quite interested in reading it, and especially after I heard so many people saying such good things about this book. I needed to read, and I'm glad I read this book because the writing, it's incredible. It's really good. I like the way, or the stylistic choice of the writing, the way you can feel with her. It's like you're going through the stuffs with Jennette, and the things she talks about in this book, it's quite surprising to see and have that curtain fall and to know what she was going through while she was portraying those characters, or before she was portraying those characters, or after she was portraying those characters. And it was just an incredible book. And yeah, let's move on to the next lonely book in my reading pile, books I read pile, which is Othello by Shakespeare. I read this for a recent video. It was the BuzzFeed sites where I read video, and I suggest checking the video out if you want a deeper review of this book. Basically, Othello follows Othello. He's a Moor, and Desdemona, she's this Venetian lady, and they elope, and not long after they get married, their marriage falls apart. And this is a dramatic play that sometimes it merges into almost like a psychological thriller, a horror, and it's just so incredible. Now let's move on to the next genre. We have like thrillers, I would say, and we have two books in this category. The first one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I read this book for the book talk video, and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is a YA thriller. It's the first one in a series, and basically these books follow Pippa. She is a teenager, and she's doing a project for her school, where basically she's saying she's doing a project for her school, but in reality she is investigating a murder that shocked her little town. And this book is really, really good, and I need to read the sequel. So when I have time to read the sequel, I will read the sequel because it's just so good. And as my copy will suggest, I really enjoyed the book. Like, you can tell in the video, my copy is completely destroyed of how much fun I had reading this book. It's like my copy of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is the Barbie, the Kate McKinnon Barbie, the Barbie that you played too hard and now she looks destroyed. That's my copy of that book. The second thriller I read is called Nobody, No Cryme by Kettermann. And this book, I believe it's only available in Portuguese. It is a short story that is heavily inspired by the Taylor Swift song of the same name. And overall, I would say this was a good book until the extra. The extra was kind of like, it spoiled a bit the book. But it was fun. Now let's go for the literary fictions. First one we have, let's go for physical book, which is Cleopatra and Frankenstein. This is a book I read for reading a book because of their cover. I suggest watching the video if you want a deeper review of this book. Basically, Cleopatra and Frankenstein follows Cleo. She is a 20-something-year-old British woman living in New York in the late 2000s, and Frank, who is a 40-something-year-old. And shortly after they meet, Cleo and Frank decide to elope, and this novel follows mainly the downfall of their relationship and basically how codependent they are, how it's a journey, and this is a book that most people will either love or hate. For me, I gave it 4 stars. Like, I had fun reading it, but it's nothing life-changing, and I don't think I would recommend to many people, just because there are a lot of things in this book that can be triggering. Basically, most of the characters do a lot of drugs. The characters struggle with their mental health. There is alcohol abuse. So if you want to read this book, I suggest checking the trigger warnings. The next book I would put on the literary fiction, but I think it can go also to speculative fiction. It is Alice at the Fire by John Fosse. I have a whole video reviewing just this book, so if you want to know more about it, if you want to know my opinion, I suggest checking that out. Now let's move on to romance, which is, it's not I believe. Romance is the section or the genre I have the most books to talk about. Most of them are actually Kindles. The first one I read in this period of time between July and October was Wait For It by Mariana Zapata. This is the slowest or slow burn in classic Mariana Zapata fashion. It follows Diana, who is the guardian of her nephews, and she's basically not working. She's basically a single mom to these kids, and she's just moving to a new city. Sorry, I've been getting so many spam calls lately. I don't know what to do because I keep blocking these numbers and they keep calling me non-stop. It's annoying. It's very annoying, especially when in a period of time of 15 minutes you get like 15 calls from 15 different numbers that are basically spam, and when you answer, it basically disconnects. So going back, Diana, she just moving to a new city, and she has this grumpy front door neighbor who turns out he is also her nephew's baseball coach. And for some reason, he is constantly trying to help her. If you read The Wall of Winnipeg and Me or Cody, you might have already heard of Diana. Diana is the best friend from the main character in The Wall of Winnipeg, and she's the cousin of the main character in Cody. So let's go back to Wait For It. Basically, if you enjoy the slowest of slow burns, or novels that explores the depictions of everyday life and the mundane, you might enjoy this book. Otherwise, you might find it boring. If you don't like Mariana Zapata novels, you might not enjoy this, but if you do, you might enjoy this, because it's very slow burn in classic Mariana Zapata fashion. I personally enjoyed it, but to be honest, I don't think about the book. I kind of, it's not that I forget, I just don't think about it. So the next book in the romance genre, they're both physical copies. So we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Book Lovers is a book I read for also the BuzzFeed Picks What I Read video. If you want a deeper review, watch that video. But basically, Book Lovers follow Nora. She's a literary agent and she lives in New York City. She's a big city girl. She's basically, if you ever watched a rom-com, those classic 2000s rom-com, where the guy goes to a small town and he meets this lovely girl and he leaves his big city girlfriend for the small city girl. Nora is the heartless big city girlfriend. And it's awesome. So yeah, Nora, she is a literary agent, and one day her little sister makes her go to a summer vacation in this little town called Sunshine Falls. And there she bumps into Charlie. Charlie is a book editor with whom, ever since they first met, they didn't really get along, and they are rivals. Kind of like, it's a rival to lover story. And basically Charlie is in the town spending the summer because he was born in the town. And I just love this book. This book was a 5-star for me. I really, 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 really love this book. And I have 2 Emily Henry's books to read still, and I am going to read them soon because I just love this book. After I finished Book Lovers, I almost started to reread Beach Read again because that's how much I love this book. Turns out a grumpy romance novel, it's great, and I need more grumpy big city people romance novels. I just love Book Lovers. If you haven't read Book Lovers yet, give it a try. If you didn't have this book right at the beginning, give it a second chance because this book is just incredible. The banter is incredible, the story is incredible, the characters is incredible, and I'm going to stop talking about it now because I can't go on and on and on about how incredible this book is. Now let's go to the second romance novel. I actually don't put this book on my romance shelf. I put it more on the literary fiction shelf because like the romance in this one is, it's Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This is the first book in the Magnolia Parks universe. It follows Magnolia and BJ. They are both socialized, very extremely rich kids in London, and they dated when they were teenagers. But after BJ cheated on Magnolia, they broke up, and Magnolia never really fully forgave him for what he did. But still, they remained in this limbo of being friends and lovers, and it's basically very toxic. They are extremely toxic people and extremely toxic to themselves. And if you want what BJ and Magnolia has, go seek some help because it's not healthy. And overall, I really enjoyed this book, and that is not only because of the story, but I would say a good chunk of it is nostalgia because this book, like the way this book feels like the OG Gossip Girl is insane. If you are a fan of the OG Gossip Girl and you still haven't read Magnolia Parks, order this book and read it because you are going to love it, because this book is the OG Gossip Girl in a current day setting. Now let's move on to the next romance novel. And this one, it's Unravel Me by Becka Mack. This is the 3rd book in the Blame for Keeps series. I believe in my last 2 book wrap-ups, I talked about the 2 previous books in the series, Consider Me and Play For Me, and I talked about how much I liked it, how much I had fun, and the way I'm now questioning myself is insane. after I read this book, I felt like it's not like I felt, but I started to think if I was in a state of, or if I had gotten a lobotomy when I read those books. Because let me tell you, I filmed and I edited a whole 24-hour reading vlog, like reading for 24 hours readathon vlog, and I scrapped the whole thing. I took hours, like it took 24 hours filming that stuff. I took hours editing that video, and I scrapped that video because of this book, because I spent more than half of the video ranting about this book. And while I think it might be fun to watch me literally lose my mind because of this book, and while I believe I had the things I was discussing, some of the things I was discussing in relation with this book, I think they are important things to talk about. I think they do have their place in, or at least they should have their place in literary discussions. I just felt like such a hater, and it was just such a negative video because of this book. So insanely negative that I needed to scrap it because I didn't want to put that out in the world. So let's talk about Unravel Me now. This book will be the start of this wrap up because this will be the one video where I will be talking about this book. So Unravel Me follows Adam, which is the sweet contender from the previous books, and Rose. She is a single mom. And Adam, he has been having trouble with his dating life, and one day he's walking in a park and his dog runs away and runs into this woman called Rosie who works at an animal shelter, and basically that's the meet cute. The beginning of the book was okay, like the writing, I thought it could have been better, but was okay. The rest of the book, I feel I'm going to lose my mind again. The way the series went from what I thought were two of my favorite books for the year to the worst book I read so far for this year. Where can we start? Okay, let's start by Adam, who he lies to Rosie about his job because he thinks he liked her only for his money and his job. If she knew he played for the NHL, which on the note I had here in my dear notes, Adam acted like if he was Marvel star level of famous. Like, babe, I get it. You play for a hockey team, you are the starting goaltender, and I get it, hockey is very popular in Canada. But babe, you're not Marvel level famous. Don't be so, like, remove that stick that is up your ass, or basically get a lobotomy, or I don't know, you need a reality check because babe, you're not that famous. You want to go somewhere where people don't know who you are? Let's start by not having a Tinder profile, which, yes, you can have a Tinder profile, no problem, have a Tinder profile. But if you are famous, please don't go on Tinder and expect to no one ever Google you or to never match with someone that is into you because of your job. Maybe if you want online dating and you are famous and you have these same confidence issues, trust issues as Adam, maybe go to one of those dating apps where you need to send your whole CV for them to analyze and say, oh yeah, we accept you. Or one of those dating apps where it's just for famous people. Or maybe just don't go on dating apps at all. Maybe if you want to find someone that has no idea who you are or what your job is, Adam, you have many options. You can go to a bookstore and look lost, go to the romance section and seem lost, completely lost. maybe like a girl will look at you and take pity on you and try to help you, and then, you know, if she's not reading hockey romances, maybe even if she's reading hockey romances, she'll have no idea who you are. And, or maybe she might have heard of your name, but you know, you are a coat and you wear those masks that cover, not your a mask, right? It's a helmet that covers your whole face, so like maybe she just won't recognize you. We have another option I could list for Adam. Maybe go to one of those Taylor Swift, those parties or those nightclubs that only play Taylor Swift. Okay, I have a message from a spam message. Thank you. I'm not accepting a job from this spam message. Going back, Adam could go to one of those parties or nightclubs where they only play Taylor Swift music, Taylor Swift songs. Will be full of girls. So go there, maybe, or there's a big chance the majority of them will have no idea who you are. Go there, you know, maybe you meet someone that doesn't know who you are and doesn't care. Or maybe you can go find a way to go to the Eras tours and look lost. Or basically go to the Eras tour and tell this group of friends, these girls that will be sitting next to you, and say, oh, my friends couldn't come, can like I sing along with you? Yeah, another option. Like, I don't know, go to the supermarket. No, supermarket, there's a biggest chance you'll be recognized. But like, there's so many ways he could find to meet people that doesn't know who you are. Or maybe, groundbreaking idea. Look for someone that makes as much money as you. Or look for someone that is as famous as you. Or maybe even more famous than you. Then this person won't be with you because of fame or money. Because they already have their own and they don't care. I was so pissed at Adam. And I was just so pissed at this book. Like, why? Like, dear Adam, you're not Taylor Swift. Stop being so... Now let's go to Rosie, who I also wanted to... The way we are meant to believe this woman went through the foster system. She is a single mother. She's in university on a scholarship and she's working really, really, really hard. She moved across country. She has no family. She works at an animal shelter, and we are meant to believe all the stuff and believe, like... Sorry, Rosie was just so incredibly naive. It was annoying. And I wanted to hop into the book and slap some sense on her, like, girl. The way this woman bumped into a random man in a park who she has no idea about, and she accepted to go on a date with him without even doing a basic Google search on this guy, even though she had his full name, like, she didn't do a basic Google search. And again, she never met this guy. She has no idea who this guy is. She doesn't have friends in common. She just literally bumped into him in the middle of a park. And not only, okay, you're putting your life in risk because this man could easily be a serial killer, right? Okay, so you're taking your chances. Fine. Go on the date on a public place and take your chances that he's not a serial killer or he's not into harvesting your organs. No, what you shouldn't do is let this guy meet your 1-year-old child. The way Rosie let this random man she met in a park that she knew nothing about, he could easily be a serial killer, he could easily be into harvesting her organs. This is not to be Wednesday Addams, but also being Wednesday Addams. Like, lady, you are a woman, don't you ever think about the getting murdered aspect of life, of the getting murdered aspect of being a woman?
And this little lady? Oh, Wednesday's at that very special age when a girl has only one thing on her mind. Boys.
Homicide.
The way she just like, yeah, hi random guy I went on a date once and who I know nothing about, here is my 1-year-old child. And then there was the whole father of the kid incident. Like, there were so many signs that something bad would happen with the kid because of that guy. There were so many signs the father of the child was a neglectful parent. There are so many signs that the father of this child was very irresponsible. And yes, Rosie doesn't have a big support system, but she does have a support system, nonetheless, that is small. And like, she could do so much stuff, but still, like, the kid, poor kid. Then I could go on and on and on about Rosie being annoying, but also I am just going to add this. Her life hasn't been easy, but she has a victim complex. Now moving on to the kid. Nothing against a kid, but this kid she was written in a way that felt like she was just a prop to the plot. And then now let's talk about the side characters. They were just so annoying and so incredibly childish, and it completely ruined all the previous books for me. I was already questioning the other previous books basically because of this one, because I was like, it was just a bad book. The way the characters acted in this book is at the moment that I started questioning if I was, what kind of haze was I in? What was happening to my brain? Is this a thing where these characters, they're being just as annoying in this book, or were they that annoying in their own books and I just couldn't see it past the rose-colored lens? Another thing is that this book, even though I think it's like, I read it on Kindle, I'm not 100% sure how long it is in terms of pages, and I don't have my Kindle here with me, so I can check. I also no longer have it on my Kindle, this book, but I believe this book's around 500 pages long, and this book felt incredibly rushed for a 500-page book. And this apparent rush in this book made the novel feel, or the story feel, so insta-lovey, such an insta-love situation, and not in a good way, and it was just so weird, and I just like, and I think the only reason I didn't DNF this book is because I enjoyed, or remembered enjoying the first two books, so I was, trying to finish it, and I was, to be honest, I was already skimming a lot of parts. But when we got to the last 20% of the book, that's when I finished the book. But around the last 20% mark was when I completely disassociated. I continued reading, but completely disassociating. And that's a part I think it's important to discuss, which is the inspiration on real life people, because they're real life people, they have lives, they're more than what we see on our screens. Also, there is privacy, there are a lot of things to consider when talking about or taking inspiration. A lot of inspiration, very heavy inspiration for a character from a real life person. What made me completely disassociate from this book was a very obvious reference to a real life hockey player who is quite well known in the hockey realm, not only for being a good player, but like, it's known for his temper and his behavior on ice, and his tendencies to being a rat, and sometimes trying to annoy the other players just to get an advantage of some sorts. That reference was just so obvious, I couldn't ignore. I literally read that, I left for literal 15 minutes, and then I continued reading, completely disassociated from the book. So to close this brief, not very brief, review, I think this book, it needed I think at least more 2 months to be released, because I think this book needed a lot of editing. Reading this book felt like it was a very early first draft, and yeah, it needed a lot of editing. It needed changes to it. I gave this book 2 stars. I know I already talked in a previous video, but I have a very rigorous scoring system for books. 5 stars, life-changing, I love it books. 4 stars is good, I have fun with this book. 3 stars is okay, 2 stars is bad. I mean, it's bad. And 1 star is, this book is hideous, it shouldn't have never existed, let's burn it, kind of thing. I think I have less than a handful of books I ever gave 1 stars. Most of my reviews are always around 4 stars, 3.5, 4 stars. This book is a solid, like, 2. It put me in a reading slump. I couldn't finish a book for quite a while. Let's go for the next book in my list of romance novels I read, and this one is actually the savior book that caught me out of that reading slump, and it is Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It is a short story about the repercussions of an illicit affairs. Like, Siri, play Illicit Affairs by Taylor Swift, please. Wait, going to...
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
It was too late. It almost played. Siri, play Illicit Affairs by Taylor Swift, please. It's going. Hey, Siri! Play Illicit Affairs by Taylor Swift, please. Okay, if someone knows how to work well with Siri, please tell me. I don't know how to set up timers, because she or he, mine is a he, it's a difficult person. It's a difficult AI. He doesn't always help you. Going back to Evidence of the Affair, I don't have much to say, because if I say, I will give you spoilers, but it's a short story. It's around 70 pages long. It is on Prime Reading, and yeah, it's on Prime Reading. So if you're a Prime member, you can read this book. It is an Amazon original book. It's only available on Kindle, but you can read Kindle on your computer or on your phone if you don't have the Kindle. Just download the app, and I really recommend. It's really good. It's really, really good. And Taylor Jenkins Reid, she's a great author, but this book, it's really good. I loved it. I gave 4 stars, and thank you for removing me from the reading slump. And now let's go to the final 4 romance novels that I read in these past months, and I actually have a whole video dedicated to these novels. I suggest you check that out. It is I finished reading the Off-Campus series. So around a year ago I read The Deal, and this year the Off-Campus series, it is now on Kindle Unlimited, so I decided to finish reading it. So I read The Mistake, The Scar, The Go, and The Legacy, all by Elle Kennedy. I'm not going to talk about it in this video because you already have a rant that will take a majority of the time of this video, but also I have a whole another video dedicated to this book, so check that out if you want to know my opinions about it. And then we are done for romance. Now let's go to the second longest pile of genres of books I read, and that is speculative fiction. So here we'll have fantasy, sci-fi, and just more general speculative fiction. So I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I read it for Book Talk Books. Midnight Library, I didn't know it was fantasy, but it turned out it is a fantasy that follows Nora. She is a 30-something-year-old woman that has a lot of problems with her family, her job, and mental health in general, so she decides to unalive herself. and in the process of doing so, she ends up stuck in this limbo called Midnight Library, where basically she's in a limbo where she's neither dead nor alive, and in this library she can pick any books she wants, and in each book there is a life she could have had if she made a different decision in the past. I like this book. I thought it could have been a little shorter because it got repetitive at times, or maybe it could have been longer and more fleshed out. But overall, like, it's fun. It's cool. I would recommend. The next book I also read for the book talk book. And oh my god, this book changed my life. Now I'm into a whole genre, or I want to read more of a genre I haven't read since I was a little kid, and that's fantasy, because it's The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I read this also for the book talk video. So The Cruel Prince is the first book in the folk of their trilogy. It follows Jude. She is a human who moved to the fairy kingdom when she was a very little kid after she saw her parents be brutally murdered by a fairy who now takes care of her. But basically, Jude, she lives in this fairy kingdom where fairies doesn't really like humans that much. They don't treat humans very well. And in this book, we follow Jude in her quest to find a place in this kingdom, in her quest to find a way to have power in this kingdom. And it's just so awesome. This was a 5-star read for me. It's one of the best books I read so far this year. I just loved it so much. And actually, if I was going to go in order, this wouldn't be the next book. But since we are already talking about the Cruel Prince, let's talk about the second book in this sequel, which is The Wiking I. Jude. Jude is incredible. I just completely devoured this book. I actually read it for the judging books by their covers, or reading books because they have good covers video, and I recommend checking that one out if you want to see me talk more about it. But I'm in love with the series. Now let's go back in time and talk about the other speculative fiction book I read. This one is sci-fi. It is The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. This is a classic sci-fi novel. I believe it was published in 1897, and it is a book that inspired many stories of aliens in the future, or many stories of aliens throughout storytelling history. So in The War of the Worlds, an army of Martians, they land in England, and they proceed to cross the country in these little 3-legged machines, which, I'm gonna be honest, every time they talked about the 3-legged machine, I could only think of the 3-legged machine, or is it 4-legged machine from The Incredibles? That's what I imagine, okay? That was walking through England. But basically, the Martians, they are in England, they are crossing the country, and they are causing panic and terror in the population due to their murderous default setting. And if you like speculative fiction, I think you should read it. This is a must read because it inspires so many things. It's such a classic. But that being said, I felt this novel was very much dated. It was very much of its time, the setting at least. And for that reason, because of the setting being very much of its time, I felt like it was difficult to be completely immersed in the story. But still, I will still recommend this book. I will still reread it. I think still, like, it's a must read if you like sci-fi speculative fiction in general. Now to the next speculative fiction I read was The Visit by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Like, I'm checking my notes because I have here marked that I have read notes for this book. That's because I read it for the 24-hour reading vlog where I completely needed to discard because of Unravel Me. But The Visit is a speculative fiction short story. It is also another one of those Amazon exclusive short stories. It takes place in a reality where a powerful matriarchy shapes the world. So yeah, think of 1950s United States, and now reverse the roles, and then you move it to Nigeria because that's where this book takes place, the story takes place. So it's a world where women holds the power. It's women that are expected to be the main breadwinners and have the important jobs. And you know, women are the ones people consider to be the intelligent ones and the important ones, and all the patriarchy shit, it's like that, except it's for women that are in power. And as a woman, it was kind of funny to see men in the reversed positions, in the positions a lot of women are good at, or going through things that women do on the regular. And overall, I thought it was a very reflective and fast read. That's pretty much it. I gave it 4 stars. Now let's move on to the next speculative fiction. It's the last one of the physical books, and the last one in this video. So it is Sisters of the Revolution, a speculative fiction anthology organized by Anne van der Meer and Jeff van der Meer. I'm not going to talk much about it because it will be in a video soon, but it's an anthology of speculative fiction written only by women from multiple parts of the world. And I'm going to talk more about it in a future video, which will be coming out hopefully very shortly after this video. So yeah, if you like this video, give a like, subscribe, and I will see you soon with another one. And so far it is a bye. Also, if you read Unravel Me, did you hate it as much as me? Just I want to know.